We're about ready to get started with Tiny Toon Adventures Buster Bust Loose, being run by SGT Salt and Pepper.
Check, check. I think my mic was off and I didn't realize it. Whoops. So nobody heard anything I just said. My bad. So I am Sergeant Salt and Pepper, and I am playing Tiny Toon Adventures Buster Bust Loose. And one of my favorite Tiny Toons games. Also, I want to talk real quick about mini games because when you're doing a run and you're trying to save time, this is actually one of the mini games that you don't want to get because basically you have to take about, I think it's like 60 seconds out of your total time if you get this mini game. You also do not want to get Plucky Ducks Bingo because that takes up a lot of time as well. I have not gotten good enough to be able to time the mini game wheel yet to where I can get the mini games I want to get, the ones that you can skip easily. And since this is more or less a casual run, I'm not too worried about it. But But happy to do this for the marathon. Happy to help out my friend Toko Tomcat as always. And if you're going to donate to anything, please consider donating for this marathon, because every year it's great. I'm glad to be a part of it. And it's for a really worthy cause, as always. Also, interesting thing to note about this level, I only just found out recently when I started running this game that you can actually slide into those barrels that you saw earlier. I never knew as a kid when I owned this that you could do that. And then I watched a run of this recently, and I was quite surprised to find out that that was the thing you could actually do. Also, if you play this game on easy, I'm playing this on normal, but if you play this on easy, you don't get all of the levels. There are certain parts of levels that are actually cut out of the game if you play on easy. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the world record for easy mode in this is something like 7 or 8 minutes, I think. So really fast run if you play this on easy. But, you know, there have been a lot of Tiny Toons games, and Tiny Toons for me is one of those things where I don't think they ever really made a bad Tiny Toons video game. They're all good. Some are just a little harder than others, I think, but I've played just about all of them, and I've really enjoyed all of them. And I was also, of course, watching the show on TV as a kid, like a lot of other kids did. Yes, if you play this on easy, this is one of the sections that gets cut, and I actually missed the jump there, so now I have to do this part again. I also really like all the music in this particular game. I think the music is really good. I actually think the hardest Tiny Toons game is Buster's Hidden Treasure on Genesis, and I think a lot of people would probably agree with that based on what I've read. That's a game that to this day I still have not beaten. Although, even though I've beaten this one several times, I've never beaten that one. I don't think I've even gotten close. So that part right there when I was a kid, I used to jump off the very edge. I used to wait and try to jump off the edge and land the jump. And I found out recently that if you just basically dash off of the edge right there, you can just land easily. You don't actually have to like try to jump and land the jump. But as a kid, I always assumed that's what you had to do. Yes, definitely. This part I always had trouble with as a kid too, jumping from brick to brick. I still have trouble with it sometimes if I'm really trying to speed through. There's a part coming up here where as a kid you get kind of like stuck, and then the game actually, you have to wait for this cutscene where he jumps up in the air. And as a kid I was always worried I was gonna die and the screen was gonna run out because I couldn't move. But the game actually forces you to stop there so that it can run that cutscene where you jump on the big train here. But this is a game that I owned as a kid. I remember I actually bought this game from KB Toys, so that gives you an idea of how long ago it was. But I'm very glad to be running it here now in the marathon. And I also want to say, if you're going to donate for anything, definitely donate for this marathon, because it's a really worthy cause, and I try every year to be a part of it in some way or another, whether I run a game or not. And I'm very glad to be able to help out this year and run this game, because it is a really fun game. If you're speed running any game, you really want it to be something that you don't mind playing over and over again, because that's what you'll be doing if you run a game. It's a very powerful train, I guess. And this game I just love. I love playing this game. I definitely don't mind playing it again and again. This is another part, as a kid, I thought you had to tap the button to build up the speed, but actually it's another part where the game takes control. You actually don't have to do anything. I'm not pushing any buttons right now. It's just another cutscene. Now, I have seen a run of this game online, and I haven't quite figured it out yet, but there is a way, apparently, to time the wheel here so that you can get a specific minigame and get it every time, and I haven't figured that out yet. So right now I'm going to have to do Bingo, which is the worst mini game, because if you're speed running, it takes forever. It takes a lot of your time up to get through Bingo. because you have to wait for the balls and, you know, for him to pick on the card. As far as I know, I haven't seen a guide on it, and I have looked. I'm sure there's some sort of a trick to it. I just haven't learned it yet. There's essentially two mini games that you want to get if you're speedrunning this. One is a game involving Hampton the Pig, where you collect apples to get extra lives, because that one you can basically just make him lose quickly and get out of it. And then the other one is with Babs Bunny, where you're in a maze running around trying to find your friends. And that one is another one where you can get out of it easily just by running into one of the enemies. So I'm going to be a little careful here since I only have one heart. And another little trick that I learned is you can actually run up this wall, and that'll take you up to the next part, and you don't have to use the ladder. So that saves a little time. And the Dracula guy there, I don't think you can actually kill him, because I've tried. So you basically just have to avoid him as best you can. And this is actually, for me, one of the harder levels of the game. When I'm speedrunning this normally, I tend to have a lot of trouble. So now we come to the first boss fight of the game. There are really only two bosses, this one and the boss of the last level. And basically, this evil doctor is controlling this monster through that little helmet. So you have to hit the screws and break his machine back there. So not too hard. Alright, so this is one of the 2 games you want to get if you're speed running this, because it's very easy to lose. You can get through it really fast. All you have to do is basically just run into one of the enemies to end the game. Like that. Now we're coming up on what is my favorite level in the game. Yeah, exactly. In reality, I'm not a big sports guy, but I do love a lot of sports video games, and I always loved this level with the football. I was never very good at it until I got older. Then I learned how to get better at it. But the easiest play for me is to run the pass, and then the X indicates where the ball's going to land. So you just have to time it right to catch the ball, basically. Yep, and I missed the pass that time. It's hard to tell whether or not they're going to jump, so most of the time you just kind of end up guessing as to whether or not they're going to jump or not jump. And the little meter up top indicates how close you are to the goal. You only have to score 1 touchdown in this to win it. So this next level you can only access if you play this game on normal or hard. If you play this on easy, you don't get this level. And I actually really like this level. I like the music. I like that it's a level where you're up in the clouds. And actually, fun little trivia fact, the music for this level was actually used in a few episodes of the show. Somebody mentioned that recently online, and I actually went back and watched those episodes, and they actually do use this music, which is interesting. So this part I always had trouble with as a kid, because basically you just have to stay on this blimp until a certain point where the screen sort of runs out. And they put all these enemies in your way to try to knock you off. And I got knocked off several times as a kid. So for this part, you can actually run up the side of the wall, which I didn't know until recently. I thought you had to do this part in sections, but you can actually just run up the side of the wall and get through. So we go up here, and Calamity Coyote sent us up here to get something that he'd stored away, which is actually the script for the next episode. And this part, you have to basically dash and jump. And as a kid, I always messed up on this part. But now, I found out there's kind of a rhythm to it, and once you get that down, it's really easy. Yep, unfortunately. I actually really like watching runs of this. I think so, yeah. And sometimes you actually won't win any lives when you play that. You're not guaranteed to win lives every time. It's the one game where you're like not guaranteed to win lives every time. So when you do play that game, sometimes have to play that game and you don't win any lives, it's kind of disappointing since you went to all that trouble. But this is basically the Star Wars themed level, as you can probably tell. So we have to go up here, and there's a key that we have to get. Now this next part here, I could never get past this as a kid because I didn't understand what you were supposed to do. These big explosions come like that, and basically if you don't stand behind these things, you get hurt. But as a kid, I guess for some reason I didn't feel like that was made very obvious what you were supposed to do. And I actually remember calling up a friend of mine on the phone and trying to ask him how to get past this part because I didn't know. And I don't think he was able to tell me either. So we're gonna step on these switches here and use the ball to break through these barriers here. Alright, now this part you can take the hard course or the easy course. I'm going to take the easy course. So basically you run up the sides of the wall. You have to hit the little go-go dodo symbols to gain speed. And if I had fallen under that barrel, those guys would have hurt me by beating up the barrel with their bats, so you have to avoid that. It's another part where you have to be really quick, but you also have to watch to make sure that you're hitting all the right marks there. And if I had played this on easy mode, the last part with all of the explosions that I was trying to avoid, that's where the game normally would have ended on easy. You don't get all the rest of this when you play on easy mode. So they actually do cut a lot out for easy mode. And now we are at the final boss, which is, I think they call him Duck Vader. So basically he has this giant laser gun, and what you have to do is you have to knock him away from it, and then you have to hit the gun so that the laser comes back and hits him like that. And it can be kind of tricky to do. Usually I lose one life playing this if I don't have full health. Because I'm guaranteed to take a couple of hits every time I go through this boss, at least. actually having a real bad run of this right now. It usually doesn't take this long. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to get some of the timing down, especially when you're trying to knock the lasers back into them. Yes, exactly. And we got it. Yep. And of course, at the end here, it is revealed, as if it weren't obvious already, that Duck Vader is actually, as we'll see coming up here, he actually was Plucky Duck all along. And the whole thing was staged with sets and props and costumes.